So next reading, the title is Estate Planning in a Global Context. Can you tell me what is the meaning of estate planning? Yes, spot on. Estate planning means that after the death of the original owner, or even when he's alive, what plans he has made in such a way that his assets are being transferred to the person to whom he intends to in a successful fashion. Okay, which means this reading invariably involve a lot of legal terms, a lot of legal structure which exist all over the world, and we would frequently be coming across terms like will. What is will? A legal document which kind of comes in vogue when a person dies, and then there is discussion. The document will have certain clauses which will say to whom assets should be transferred. We would also come across a term called probate. Yes, what is it? When there is no will? Yes, that when a person dies, then the assets are transferred as per the terms and conditions which are put into the will, which means if there is a will, then after the will, a court will decide how the assets are to be transferred. That means the interpretation of the will, and that process is called probate. Okay, so it does not mean that if there is no will, sorry, if there is a will, there would be no probate. In fact, if there is a will, there has to be a probate. Are we fine? We would also learn a term called intestate. What would be intestate? Yes, in case if a person dies without a will, then how the assets are to be transferred to the legal heirs, that process would be called as, or it is said that he has died intestate. That means without creating a particular will. So let's look at these kind of terms in the first section of the reading, and then in the subsequent section we would start looking at certain intense level of calculations. Okay, now some of the formulas prima facie would look non-intuitive, but as we'll dig deeper into them, they will start making sense to you. So let us start. The first point of discussion is what is the purpose of estate planning and the concept of domestic estate planning, including estates, wills, and probate. The most common tool used to transfer assets is a will, also known as a testament. So they are one and the same thing. This is of course not visible so clearly, but this is probate, a legal process that takes place at death, during which a court determines the validity of the descendant's will, inventories the descendant's property, resolves any claim against the descendants, and distribute remaining property according to the will. Are we fine with this? Now, typically, this probate is considered to be an expensive affair, and therefore, many individuals would try to plan their estate in such a fashion that this probate can be avoided. And there are multiple ways which are proposed in this particular LOS. Due to the cost, the time it takes, and the public nature of the probate process, individuals take steps to avoid it. And this is typically accomplished through joint ownership with rights of survivorship. What is this? What is this? Yeah, so for example, there is a particular asset. Currently, A is the owner. He intends to pass on that asset to B after his death. What he would do is he would make A and B as joint owner of this particular asset. In case if A dies, then the right of that asset would be with the survivor. Fine. Next one, living trust. What are these? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then what would be the difference between a trust and a living trust? Okay. So living trust is nothing but again a will. Okay, they are exactly same set of documents where the assets would be transferred to a trust, and then trust will have a set of clauses saying these assets should be disseminated to what people. The only difference between the two is that will comes in vogue only at the death of an individual, whereas these living trust documents are valid during the life and even after the death, and therefore living trust will avoid the probate process. No, yeah, during the life the assets would be transferred to trust. The trust will have a set of documents about in certain, depending on the wishes of the trustee, the assets should be transferred to beneficiaries so that you avoid the entire probate process. Fine. And the third one is life insurance. So what they say is that if you transfer the assets through a will, it would go through the probate process. Instead of that, keep on paying insurance premium, and the nominee of that insurance premium could be a trust, and the trust of course would be it could be a living trust or any other category of trust, and then this trust would disseminate those assets to the beneficiary, right? So without transferring these assets directly to the beneficiary, you route it through this entire process, and again it's a strategy so that we can avoid probate. Are we fine here? So I have these 3 points in your notes. Steps to avoid probate. Creating a nominee, that means you've avoided probate. Creating a nominee has, that means you've avoided probate. It is similar to maybe a joint ownership with the rights of survivorship, that after you, the nominee would become the owner of the assets. Same. See, to truly appreciate this reading, I realize that you need to have a really good understanding of taxation laws in US and European markets. And you maybe also need to have a good understanding of how the legal structure exists there. Okay, that especially in India we don't do, I mean, no one really worries about, these kind of things. As we'll progress in the reading, you would realize that people think so much. I mean, the reading is so in depth about how to save taxes when a person dies. We'll be doing a lot of calculations on this. But we still have gift tax, inherent tax. We still have types of estate taxes. We have many of them. Next one. Or in fact, a question. Is it C? Yes. Transfer of assets, avoiding probate without the use of will. Is it A? Transferring assets during lifetime or at death in the most efficient manner to the intended person. If there is no will, or if the will is considered invalid. Yeah, B is a filler. I couldn't think of anything else. But yes, A is the answer, intestate. Are we fine?